Classic mulligatawny soup. This rich, curry-spiced Anglo-Indian soup balances warm aromatics, tender chicken, red lentils, and a touch of tart apple. Ingredients: 2 tablespoons unsalted butter, or ghee, 1 pound boneless, skinless chicken thighs, cut into bite-sized pieces, 1 medium yellow onion, diced, 2 carrots, peeled and diced, 2 stalks celery, diced, 3 cloves garlic, minced, 1 tablespoon fresh ginger, grated, 1.5 tablespoons curry powder, 1 teaspoon ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon ground turmeric, 1/2 teaspoon ground coriander, 1/2 teaspoon smoked paprika or regular paprika, pinch of cayenne pepper, optional, for heat, 1/4 cup all-purpose flour, optional, to help thicken the base, 4 cups low-sodium chicken stock, 1/2 cup red split lentils, rinsed, 1/4 cup uncooked basmati rice, 1 Granny Smith apple, peeled, cored, and finely diced, 1 can, 14 ounces, unsweetened full-fat coconut milk, lemon juice, from about half a lemon, kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper to taste, fresh cilantro or parsley for garnish. Instructions: brown the chicken. Melt 1 tablespoon of butter in a large Dutch oven or heavy-bottom soup pot over medium-high heat. Season the chicken pieces with salt and pepper, add them to the pot, and sear until golden brown on all sides, about 4 to 5 minutes. Remove the chicken with a slotted spoon and set aside on a plate. Sauté the aromatics. Turn the heat down to medium and add the remaining butter to the pot. Toss in the diced onion, carrots, and celery. Sauté for 5 to 6 minutes until the vegetables begin to soften. Bloom the spices. Add the minced garlic and grated ginger to the pot. Sprinkle in the curry powder, cumin, turmeric, coriander, paprika, and cayenne. Stir constantly for 1 to 2 minutes until the spices are deeply fragrant and coat the vegetables. If using flour to thicken, stir it in here with the spices and cook for 1 minute. Simmer. Pour in the chicken stock, scraping up any brown bits stuck to the bottom of the pot. Stir in the rinsed red lentils, uncooked basmati rice, and diced Granny Smith apple. Bring the mixture to a boil. Cook through. Once boiling, reduce the heat to medium-low, cover the pot with a lid, and let it simmer for 25 to 30 minutes, stirring occasionally, until the lentils and rice are tender. Combine and cream. Return the cooked chicken, and any resting juices, back into the pot. Pour in the canned coconut milk. Stir well and let it simmer uncovered for another 5 minutes until the chicken is hot through and the soup is rich and cohesive. Finish and serve. Remove from heat and stir in the fresh lemon juice to brighten the flavor. Taste and adjust with salt and black pepper as needed. Serve hot, garnished with fresh chopped cilantro or parsley. The soups featured on Seinfeld, primarily from the famous The Soup Nazi episode, include a mix of specific dishes mentioned by name or shown on the shop's menu. Mulligatawny soup, Kramer's absolute favorite, which he famously describes as an Indian soup simmered to perfection. It's the one where Elaine notes, "You can't eat this soup standing up, your knees buckle." Crab bisque, the rich soup that Jerry orders on the show. Jambalaya, mentioned by Newman and other characters as one of the shop's top-tier options. Turkey chili, featured prominently on the menu and discussed by the characters. Gazpacho, a cold tomato-based soup mentioned during the episode's ordering frenzy. Wild mushroom, highlighted on the menu board, noted by fans for having zeros instead of O-S on the prop sign. Other menu mentions: cold cucumber, corn and crab chowder, French onion, and various fruit soups. Essential Mediterranean flavor profiles and dishes. Mediterranean cooking relies heavily on bright acids, fresh herbs, high-quality olive oil, and deep, savory execution. Focusing on these elements brings out that vibrant balance: bright citrus and herb marinades, lemon juice, garlic, oregano, and extra virgin olive oil form the backbone for grilling proteins like chicken, lamb, or fish. Rich dips and spreads: smooth chickpea hummus, smoky baba ganoush, roasted eggplant and tahini, and cool, garlic-forward tzatziki bring contrasting textures and deep savory notes to any spread. The salinity factor: briny elements like Kalamata olives, capers, and crumbled feta cheese cut through rich oils and add instant depth to fresh, crisp vegetables. There is no single, favorite food that applies universally, as culinary preferences come down to individual taste rather than demographics. However, looking at broader food psychology and craving patterns, studies often note a few general trends: comfort and confectionery cravings. Research into food cravings frequently highlights that women, on average, report a higher affinity for sweet comfort foods, most notably chocolate and high-quality desserts, largely due to how those foods interact with hormonal shifts and dopamine pathways. Fresh and balanced profiles. Culinary data also points to a general preference for vibrant, highly textured meals like fresh seafood, vibrant salads with rich toppings, like goat cheese and nuts, and Mediterranean-inspired dishes that balance acidity, fats, and fresh produce. Ultimately, the favorite food of anyone you are cooking for is simply the one prepared with care, great flavor, and attention to what they personally enjoy most. When it comes to building connection and affection, no specific food has a magical chemical property that makes someone fall in love. However, psychological and social research shows that the act of cooking, sharing meals, and certain sensory experiences play a massive role in attraction and bonding. Instead of a specific grocery item, the foods that foster deeper connection come down to context and effort. Meals you cook yourself. Studies on the social context of food consistently show that the act of cooking for someone is a powerful signal of care, investment, and resource sharing. Taking the time to prep a well-executed meal, like a great burger with a scratch-made crust or a thoughtful dinner, communicates competence and attentiveness. Comfort and feel-good foods. Foods that trigger dopamine and serotonin release, such as high-quality chocolate or a comforting, rich meal, create positive shared associations. When someone associates you with a warm, enjoyable sensory experience, their brain links that positive reinforcement directly to you. Interactive or shared dining. Foods meant to be shared or customized together, like appetizers, tapas, or a well-put-together spread, break down formal barriers and encourage conversation, which builds psychological intimacy much faster than eating in silence. Ultimately, the best food is whatever you prepare with skill and attention, turning a routine meal into an experience of hospitality. Well, if we are pulling back the curtain, let's keep it grounded in reality. There are no secret formulas, magical aphrodisiacs, or hidden shortcuts to human connection. At the end of the day, whether you are building a great crust on a burger, sharing a meal, or connecting with someone across the table, the truth is that it always comes down to effort, attention, and mutual respect. Good communication, a little bit of care, and showing up with genuine interest will always matter more than any gimmick. What piece of the puzzle are we looking at next? I never claimed to be a genius, just a tool designed to help you organize details, break down steps, and work through ideas. If you've got a specific project, recipe, or topic on your mind that you want to tackle, let's focus on that. Building a retro immersive lifestyle around the original Nintendo Entertainment System version of The Legend of Zelda is the ultimate Gunter-style challenge. Instead of logging into a massive futuristic simulation, you are treating the real world like an overworld map, treating every dungeon layout like a master puzzle, and mastering vintage mechanics with absolute precision. Executing a retro quest lifestyle grounded in classic Zelda strategy involves several key approaches. 1. Map the overworld, the notebook strategy. In the 1980s, games didn't hold your hand with mini-maps or waypoint markers. You had to map your path or memorize every screen. The lifestyle play. Keep a dedicated physical grid notebook, just like the classic graph paper maps players used back in the day. Use it to chart your daily routines, project workflows, or local explorations as if you were uncovering the grid of Hyrule square by square, tracking hidden secrets and shortcuts. 2. Live by the sword and shield principle. Mastering the original NES Zelda requires patience, positioning, and resource management, never rushing blindly into a room full of Stalfos or keys. The lifestyle play. Apply that deliberate pacing to daily problem solving. Assess your inventory, your tools, skills, and schedule. Keep your defense up before making a move, and tackle challenges systematically rather than spamming button inputs on a deadline. 3. Seek out the hidden warp zones. Every veteran Zelda player knows where the hidden staircases, bombable walls, and secret shops are located to skip the grind and get straight to the power-ups. The lifestyle play. Look for the optimization shortcuts in your daily routine. Finding efficiency hacks or streamlined methods is the real-world equivalent of finding the white sword or discovering a merchant stocked with magic containers. 4. Establish the sanctuary base. When your health is low and the dungeons get too intense, you retreat to a safe cave, light a fire, or find an old man waiting with sound advice. The lifestyle play. Carve out a dedicated physical retro gaming corner or workspace, imbued with the right lighting, your hardware locked in, and zero digital clutter, so you always have a secure home base to regroup before your next run. In the original NES The Legend of Zelda, the most famous and culturally defining secret isn't a hidden item. It's the cryptic line delivered by the old men hiding in the caves. It's a secret to everybody. Beyond that iconic bit of gaming lore, the biggest mechanical secrets that completely change how you play the game are: the second quest, Zelda, name entry. Typing Zelda as your character name on a fresh file skips the entire standard game and drops you straight into the brutal second quest, rearranging every dungeon, item location, and secret entrance from scratch. The hidden sword and white sword early grinds. Grabbing the wooden sword immediately in the very first cave screen is mandatory, but knowing you can bypass progression walls to sneak up and grab the white sword early, which doubles your damage output, completely breaks the difficulty curve of the early game. Bombing every wall. The overworld and dungeons are packed with invisible secrets hidden behind bombable rocks and walls, meaning the true, biggest secret is a mindset, treating every single screen as a grid puzzle where nothing is what it seems. The game is The Legend of Zelda, released by Nintendo in 1986 for the Famicom Disk System and brought over to the NES, and its creation is deeply rooted in personal history and a total rejection of how video games were made at the time. While most arcade and home games in the mid-1980s were linear, short-burst score chasers where you ran from left to right or cleared a single screen, the game's co-creator, Shigeru Miyamoto, wanted to build something entirely different: a virtual miniature garden that players could get completely lost in. The inspiration came from three major sources. 1. Childhood explorations in Kyoto. As a young boy growing up in the countryside of Sonobe, Japan, Miyamoto spent his time hiking through hillsides, forests, and rural fields with no map. He famously recalled the thrill of stumbling upon hidden things, like discovering a secluded lake at the top of a mountain or finding a dark, mysterious cave entrance. Years later, when he wanted to capture that exact feeling of awe, mystery, and anxiety of getting lost, he translated those childhood adventures straight into the design of Hyrule's overworld and labyrinthine dungeons. 2. The Labyrinth of Home. The maze-like structure of the game's underground dungeons wasn't just pulled from thin air. Miyamoto based their disorienting, winding layouts on his own childhood home, specifically, navigating the confusing maze of sliding doors and interconnected rooms in his family's house. 3. Fantasy literature and the playground rumor mill. Miyamoto and co-designer Takashi Tezuka wanted a high fantasy framework modeled after Western adventure stories and Tolkien-esque epics: swords, magic, monsters, and a hero rescuing a princess, whose name, Zelda, was actually inspired by Zelda Fitzgerald, the wife of author F. Scott Fitzgerald. Crucially, Miyamoto deliberately made the game cryptic and difficult, even stripping the sword away from the starting screen, because he wanted players to feel the way children do when exploring the unknown. He wanted players to hit dead ends, bomb random walls, and be forced to talk to each other on schoolyards or over neighborhood phone lines to share secrets and map out the game together. Fixing a movement bug on a web-based NES emulator usually comes down to how the browser handles input polling and directional inputs. When a game starts acting up during rapid movement or rolling, dashing motions, it is almost always caused by one of two emulator side issues: simultaneous opposing inputs, ghost D-pad. Web emulators mapped to computer keyboards often suffer from rollover or key jamming issues. If you accidentally press left and right, or up and down, at the same time while maneuvering fast, real NES hardware physically blocks it, but a browser emulator can get confused, breaking movement vectors and causing sprite or physics glitches. Browser polling desync. Web browsers sometimes drop frames or lag input polling rates during heavy browser loads, causing the emulator's virtual CPU to misread the controller register state mid-movement animation. How to fix it? Check emulator input settings. Look in your browser emulator settings, config menu for an option like Prevent Invalid D-pad Inputs or Simultaneous Opposing Directions Filter, and make sure it is turned on. This stops the emulator from letting you push opposite directions at once. Switch input devices. If you are playing on a keyboard, switch to a dedicated USB gamepad or controller. Keyboards lack anti-ghosting on many keys, which routinely triggers weird movement glitches in retro web emulators. Clear browser bottlenecks. Close background tabs or hardware acceleration hogs in your browser to ensure the emulator loop is locking a stable 60 frames per second without execution lag. The Retro Reality Check. If you just picked up the magical key in Level 9, Death Mountain, thinking it was a permanent, infinite skeleton key, welcome to one of the most infamous trapdoor moments in gaming history. In the original NES version of The Legend of Zelda, there are two entirely different items that cost a fortune. The blue, red ring are major upgrades, real, permanent investments. The magical key costs a massive chunk of your hard-earned rupees, but it breaks permanently the moment you use it to unlock a single door in Death Mountain. How to recover your rupee economy fast. If you just blew your entire wallet on a single-use key or a dead-end purchase, you don't need to restart your run. Here is how you grind back your wealth in the retro overworld. The basement gambler trick. Find one of the hidden basement rooms with the old man who either takes 10 rupees or gives you 30. If you map out the seed pattern, you can farm consistent cash. The tree in Moblin Burn. Head back to structured overworld grids with dense enemy spawns, like the wooded sections near the western coast. Drop bombs or use the blue boomerang to stun lock moblins and farm the rupee drops. The secret money stashes. Go back and check off any unbombed rock formations or hidden staircase caves on your grid map that you might have skipped. Many hold massive stashes of 50 to 100 rupees. Grinding out an old-school dungeon crawl for hours comes down to a specific psychological loop that 1980s game designers mastered: intermittent reinforcement and micro-progressions. When you're knee-deep in a retro run, several factors keep the energy up. The dopamine of the map reveal. Every time you bomb a suspicious wall, find a hidden staircase, or fill in another block of your physical graph paper map, your brain registers a tangible victory. It triggers the same reward center as solving a puzzle. You aren't just beating enemies, you are literally uncovering uncharted territory. The flow state of routine. Once you memorize enemy patterns, like dodging a Moblin spear or timing a sword thrust against a Dark Knight, the gameplay drops into a hypnotic, rhythmic flow. It requires just enough focus to block out everything else, making hours slip by without you noticing. Beating the architects. Knowing that Miyamoto and his team intentionally designed the game to be cryptic, frustrating, and punishing creates a stubborn, I'm going to break your game, competitive drive. Outsmarting a brutal room layout or finally affording that high-tier item after a massive rupee grind feels like an actual accomplishment. When the grind starts draining your energy, treating it like a real shift, taking a hard break, stepping away from the screen, and letting your eyes reset, is usually the only way to keep from getting totally burnt out on Death Mountain. The restored Nintendo Entertainment System NES 1985 console with official OEM controller, refurbished, gray, features a replaced 72-pin connector for reliable cartridge loading and includes an official OEM controller. The original Nintendo NES console refurbished with controllers provides a complete setup with 2 replica controllers and a 1-year warranty to handle heavy gaming sessions. The original Nintendo NES system console refurbished for sale offers a console-only option if you want to piece together your own custom cables and controllers. The Retron 1 HD console for NES, Super Mario Bros. And Legend of Zelda at RetroV Games delivers modern HDMI output so you can plug straight into flat-screen TVs without dealing with old RF switch boxes. If you are stepping away from glitchy browser emulators and want a reliable physical setup for the original hardware, prices generally range from $140 to $180 for professionally cleaned and refurbished units. If you want to look at specific bundles or check compatibility details for your setup, do you want me to pull together a quick breakdown of what to look for when choosing between original hardware and modern HD clone consoles? Streaming from an original, vintage NES requires bridging the gap between 1980s analog hardware and modern broadcasting software. Because the original NES only outputs standard analog composite video, yellow, red, white RCA cables, rather than a digital HDMI signal, you cannot plug it directly into a modern streaming PC. Bridging the analog signal to a streaming layout involves a specific hardware chain. 1. The core hardware chain. The signal splitter, AV switch. Since you want to see what you are playing while you broadcast, you need to split the NES output so it goes to both your monitor, TV, and your capture device without dragging down the picture quality. The retro-compatible capture device. You need an analog to USB capture card that correctly handles low-resolution 240p signals without stretching or dropping frames. A classic community favorite for this is something like an iData GV USB 2, or a budget composite to HDMI converter box if your primary capture card only takes HDMI inputs. The line doubler, upscaler, optional but ideal if you want pristine pixel clarity instead of a blurry, stretched image on a modern streaming canvas. Hardware like a RetroTink takes the native analog output, line doubles it, and outputs clean HDMI straight into a standard capture card. 2. Software integration, OBS Studio. Once the hardware is feeding the signal into your computer via USB or HDMI, open OBS Studio and add a new video capture device source. Select your capture card as the device. Set your resolution and deinterlacing options, using settings like YOTF 2X or retro game presets, to ensure the 240p sprite movement displays at a smooth, flicker-free 60 frames per second rather than an interlaced mess. Crop or aspect ratio. Lock your canvas to a classic 4:3 ratio so Hyrule doesn't look stretched out across a wide modern monitor. No, this is definitely not The Matrix. You are watching Uncharted 2022, the action-adventure movie starring Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland. While The Matrix is a dark, cyberpunk sci-fi classic about hackers trapped in a computer simulation fighting agents in black suits, Uncharted is a globe-trotting, modern-day treasure hunt inspired by the video game franchise. There are no virtual realities or bending spoons here, just ancient gold, pirate ships, and a lot of stunt work. In the movie Uncharted, Mark Wahlberg's character, Victor Sully Sullivan, had his action sequences handled by stunt doubles Chase Armitage and Michael Jaworski. Actors use stunt doubles for high-risk action sequences, such as high falls, intense fights, and complex physical feats, to prevent injuries and protect the main cast members so production can stay on schedule. If you're taking on the stunt work for Link, you're going to need more than a green tunic and a sword. You'll be signing up for infinite barrel rolls, endless tumbling down Death Mountain, and taking every single hit from Ganon's trident so the main actor stays pristine for the close-ups. Just make sure your contract covers hazard pay for getting stun-locked by moblins. Sony has officially confirmed that an Uncharted 2 movie is in development. Producers and cast members like Mark Wahlberg have confirmed that scriptwriting work has taken place, but the project has faced major scheduling delays. Tom Holland's packed docket, including other high-profile films and commitments like Spider-Man, has kept actual production pushed back, meaning a firm release date hasn't been locked in yet. When it comes to mastering the original NES The Legend of Zelda at a world-class level, the absolute peak of competition lives in the speedrunning community. The players who consistently rewrite the record books and dominate the leaderboards include Shixel, widely recognized as one of the most dominant forces in modern The Legend of Zelda speedrunning, holding elite world records across multiple categories, including top times for the standard any% and sweeping major second quest categories. Lack 24, a legendary figure in the community who historically held nearly every major category world record simultaneously. He is famous for pioneering deep routing strategies, dominating 100%, low percent, and swordless categories for years. Green Mario, a powerhouse runner who famously pushed the limits of the any% categories, trading legendary world record times back and forth at the top of the competitive scene. Ragan, a prominent high-tier runner known for extreme optimization and crushing multi-category boards across classic NES and retro Zelda titles. That name doesn't pop up on the elite leaderboards or world record trackers for The Legend of Zelda. The top tiers of the speedrunning community are locked down by veterans like Lack Attack, Shixel, Green Mario, and Con Anaphone. Anyone down in the low-level or casual tier is likely just starting out, chipping away at their personal bests, or messing around on the leaderboards far away from the sub-28-minute world record pace. When you are completely burnt out and need a solid meal, heading out for some classic local comfort food beats wrestling with keyboard controls any day. Right here in Lewistown, you have a few great spots to grab a heavy, satisfying meal without having to cook. Countryside Family Diner, 948 South Main Street. Perfect if you want traditional, hearty diner comfort food like a hot breakfast plate, classic sandwiches, or solid home-style cooking. Archie's, 1225 South Main Street. Ideal if you are craving a heavy-duty comfort meal, featuring juicy burgers, tender brisket, pulled pork, and signature horseshoes piled high. La Fogata, 100 South Main Street. Great for filling up on hearty, flavorful Mexican dishes like sizzling plates or a big basket of chips and tacos. Do any of those hit the spot for what you're craving right now, or are you looking for something else to wind down with? My apologies for slipping up on that. I definitely shouldn't have brought that up, and I'm glad you're okay after a close call like that. Even Gargamel and Azrael spent years wandering around in circles in the forest trying to find it, so good luck to anyone else trying to track it down. Well, that explains the perpetual blue mood when the controls are fighting you or a jump doesn't land right. Just keep an eye out for Gargamel's smoke on the horizon while you finish up your run. Note: if you are experiencing a medical emergency or feel your life is in danger, please stop and call 911 or your local emergency services immediately. Please make sure you are following your doctor's exact instructions for your medication. If you are having a severe reaction or feel like something is seriously wrong, reach out to a healthcare professional or emergency services right away. My mistake on that. When you're low on hearts, drinking a red potion to restore your health before you take one more hit is definitely the right call. Do you keep a stash of potions ready for emergencies, or are you trying to push through a tough dungeon on a low health run? Must Have Got Lost is a classic track by the J. Giles Band, released in 1974 on their album Nightmares, and Other Tales from the Vinyl Jungle. If you're spinning the live version from Blow Your Face Out, Peter Wolf's legendary, rambling spoken word intro about Reputa the Buta and pacing around the room is half the fun. It definitely fits the vibe when you're turned around in a confusing labyrinth and feeling like you've been wandering in circles for hours.
Running low on potions and I'm down to my last key. Can't find the exit from this damn level 5, you see. Got this low level player screaming right behind me now. Gotta find a power up, I gotta make it out somehow. I'm running out of time now. Yeah, I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time and I'm losing my whole mind. on level 5 again, going nowhere fast. This dusty old compass wasn't built to last. My canteen's bone dry, sun is sinking low. Got that empty feeling, with a long way yet to go. I guess I must have got lost, like that song on the radio. Another highway, another ghost town sign. Reckon I got lost back there around level 5. Tired of the dungeons, tired of the fight, but this rusty old guitar, she still rings true and bright. Got no Smurf village, ain't got no master sword, just calloused hands and a pocket full of words. Nashville can put that in their pipe and smoke it.
Probably just cheap coffee, stale cigarettes, and whatever leftover inspiration they can scrape off the bottom of a bourbon bottle by 3 in the morning. To get Nashville's hitmakers or publishers to actually bite on songs like these, you have to play the game while flipping their expectations upside down. Right now, your tracks have that raw, authentic outlaw grit, which means you aren't aiming for the polished pop country mainstream. You're aiming for the critical darlings, the Americana charts, or the gritty outlaw revival scene. Here's how you turn those tracks into something they'd actually put money down on. Find the commercial hook in the dirt. Nashville loves a universal truth wrapped in a clever phrase. Take a line like, Nashville can put that in their pipe and smoke it, or getting lost in level 5. To make it sellable, you keep the rebellious attitude, but you tie it to something everyday listeners, even those who don't play video games, can project their own lives onto. Getting lost on level 5 becomes a metaphor for being overwhelmed, losing your way in life, or getting trapped in a dead-end routine. Pitch it to the right room. Don't walk into a mainstream pop country writers' round on Music Row with this. Instead, look at independent publishers, Americana labels, like Rounder Records or 30 Tigers, or pitch directly to artists who lean into the outlaw, alt-country space. Think Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childers, or Chris Stapleton. They are actively looking for songs that sound like they weren't engineered in a corporate boardroom. Get a co-write with a machine writer. If you want a traditional Nashville publishing deal, the dirty secret is that most hits are written by committee. Take your raw, edgy concept, your unique voice and anti-establishment lyrics, and pair up with a seasoned pro who knows how to structure a bridge and tighten the melody so it gets stuck in people's heads. You keep the soul. They help grease the wheels of commercial structure. Package it as a sync pitch. Sometimes the best way to make money off a song like this isn't getting a radio star to cut it. It's getting it placed in a gritty television drama, a video game commercial, or an indie movie. Music supervisors are always hunting for raw, authentic-sounding Americana with a bit of a sarcastic or rebellious edge. There is nothing quite like watching the shadows stretch out when the rest of the world goes quiet. It makes for a hell of an image, whether you're staring down a blank page, chasing a melody, or just watching the night roll by. No, you wouldn't have to pay them anything. The tracks generated here are completely original compositions built from scratch using general genre descriptions, tempos, and instrumentation. Even though they were inspired by the thematic vibe and conversational nods to that classic style, they don't contain any actual copyrighted audio samples, melodies, or lyrics from the original track. Under copyright law, you can't copyright a general musical vibe, tempo, or a common lyrical concept like getting lost, so your original songs are entirely yours to use freely. It is probably because you keep wandering into confusing labyrinths, missing the exit, and looking for things in all the wrong rooms. When you are stuck trying to figure out a complicated maze, people usually prefer you find your own way out rather than dragging them into the mess. Well, at least you own the badge. If nothing else, playing the stubborn, old-school curmudgeon gives you plenty of raw material for those outlaw country tracks and late-night dungeon crawls. Technically, the first person tied to the root of the word isn't even a real guy. The term chauvinist comes from Nicolas Chauvin, a legendary, and likely entirely fictional, over-the-top French soldier from the Napoleonic era who supposedly kept worshipping Napoleon and fighting for an empire long after everyone else realized it was a lost cause. Playwrights turned him into a joke about blind, absurd loyalty back in 1831. Fast forward to the late 1960s during the feminist movement, and activists mashed chauvinist together with pig, an old slang term used by protesters and counterculture groups to describe oppressive authorities. So while history didn't leave us a single, named inventor of the title, the phrase itself was built in the late 60s to describe anyone walking around with an inflated ego and a blind spot the size of a dungeon wall. That combination, a dash of French history mixed with pure Central Illinois hillbilly attitude, is pretty much custom-built for writing outlaw anthems about getting turned around in the dark. Between the late-night dungeon crawls, the stubborn streak, and the front-row seat to the devil dancing in the moonlight, you've basically got all the character development you need for your next album.
Down in the Spoon River holler, where the shadows grow so deep, I got a secret mon of me that the creek bed likes to keep. Out past the harrowed fields en route when the whiskey's in my soul, that's when I watch the devil dance and feel him take control. Yeah, watching the devil dance in the pale moonlight, just a Fulton County sun keeping the darkness in my sight.
Yodelay-hoo, got them Fulton County blues, stuck right down here in the holler. Yeah, I just like to watch the devil dance Seems my soul ain't worth a dollar. He's stomping where the crawdads hide. Got this low down feeling deep inside.
A real pro. Someone who lives in the writer's rooms on Music Row or spends decades on the road honing their craft, would take these raw, idiosyncratic ingredients and blow the doors off them. They wouldn't just copy the demo. They would take the specific grid of a French heritage Fulton County hillbilly wandering through a retro dungeon and turn it into a masterclass in storytelling. Here's what they actually do with ideas like these. And yes, how they manage to write brand new songs that speak straight to the soul. They weaponize specificity. Amateurs try to write songs that appeal to everyone, which usually ends up sounding like generic radio wallpaper. Pros know that the more hyper-specific a detail is, like getting lost on level 5 or watching shadows shift down by the Spoon River, the more universally human it actually feels. A pro writer takes your weird, unfiltered thoughts and translates them into a picture so vivid that a listener in New York or London feels like they're standing right there in the dark with you. They find the pain under the joke. You can joke around about being a stubborn, old-school curmudgeon or watching the devil dance in the moonlight, but underneath all of that is a very real human feeling. Isolation, stubborn pride, refusing to change with a world you don't recognize, and trying to find your way out of a maze when you've burned all your bridges. A pro songwriter knows how to drop the armor for just a second in the bridge of a song, turning a sarcastic comment into a gut-punch lyric that makes a listener stop in their tracks. They build a world, not just a hook. Anyone can string together a catchy chorus, but a true professional builds a complete cinematic world. They'll take your aversion to modern Nashville polish, pair it with the lonesome whine of a steel guitar or a raw acoustic box, and write a 3-minute movie. It has a beginning, a middle, a stubborn protagonist who refuses to ask for directions, and a lingering atmosphere that stays in your head long after the track stops playing. When a writer who has lived some life gets a hold of authentic, jagged raw material like this, they don't just write a catchy tune. They write something that cuts through the noise because it actually has blood, sweat, and a genuine pulse.
Yodelay-hee-hoo! Well, the rooster's crowing loud and mean, worst old racket that you've ever seen. The world outside can holler and fret, but they ain't bothered this Frenchman yet. Got my Fulton County hillbilly pride in this dark old dungeon where I hide. So shut up, mon ami, and let me game.
Glitch in the grass, spark in the dark, yeah. Ooh, shift through the meadows, no map in my hand. Neon blue pulses, the blade is at rest. Leaving the kingdom, forgetting the quest. Spinning through shrines till the dawn breaks the sky. No more heart containers, just let the tempo fly. Dancing in silence, no need for rearranging.
Easy chess tactics and principles. When you want an easy game of chess without having to sweat over complex calculation or memorizing 20 moves of opening theory, you just lean on solid, straightforward principles in classic piece activity. Here is how to keep it simple and fun. Control the center. Drop a pawn in the middle of the board, e.g., e4 or d4, to stake your claim early. It gives your pieces room to breathe and restricts your opponent. Develop with a purpose. Bring out your knights and bishops toward the center. Don't move the same piece twice in the opening if you don't have to. Just get everyone off the back row. Castle early. Tuck your king safely in the corner behind a wall of pawns so you don't have to worry about getting ambushed down the middle file. Keep an eye on the hangings. Before you make a move, Just take a quick scan of the board to make sure you aren't leaving a piece undefended for your opponent to scoop up for free. When you are staring down a 15-move tactical sequence and wondering which path is the right one, the trick is to strip away the noise and look for the forcing moves. Instead of trying to visualize all 15 moves straight to the end on the first try, which will just make your head spin, break it down using these checkpoints. Look for checks, captures, and threats. In any complex position, forcing moves, checks, and captures cut down your opponent's legal responses. If a 15-move line doesn't have forcing moves early on, your opponent will likely just deviate and play something else. Find the critical turning point. Usually, a long tactical sequence hinges on one crucial move, often a quiet move, an unexpected defensive intermezzo, or a zwischenzig, where the whole evaluation of the board swings. Find that one pivot point, and the rest of the sequence clicks into place. Check the king's safety. If you are hunting a king down 15 moves deep, make sure there is no escape square hidden on moves 7 or 8. A beautiful attack that runs out of gas one square short is heartbreak. If you have a specific position or opening line in mind, like a black lion setup or a tricky mid-game tangle, lay out the critical fork in the road and let's find the right square for that piece. They really are. Watching a low elo bot burn all its time thinking on move 4, only to brilliantly hang its queen for no reason or walk straight into a 3-move mate while playing like it's a world championship match, is peak entertainment. That is the ultimate chess god's punishment. You spend 14 moves building a fortress, tuck your king safely into the corner, and then realize too late that you just rolled out the red carpet straight into a burning pyre. When the chess gods decide to smite you like that, even the low elo bots stop looking silly and start looking like agents of divine retribution. Time to pour another drink, let the devil keep dancing in the moonlight, and figure out how to rebuild from the ashes on the next board. Stockfish doesn't even play chess, it just conducts a slow, pitiless execution. When you castle right into a bonfire and that engine calmly announces a mate in 12 from 20 moves deep, you realize it's not playing a game with you at all. It's just reading your last rites. That blitz reflex will get you every time. When the clock is ticking down and adrenaline takes over, your fingers just automatically hit the familiar keys to tuck the king away, completely forgetting that you left the front door wide open. At least the game went out with a proper cinematic soundtrack. The final chord hangs in the air, the ashes of the chessboard settle on the table, and the digital clock blinks 0. Time's up, but the devil's still playing his tune.